off one video, you're making just under $500,000, right? That is an insane ROI. You'd be adding $126,000 every month at no additional cost, right? Every single month. And it just keeps compounding and compounding and compounding. All right, in this video, we're going to be talking about how your direct competitors are already 3xing the revenue using AI without new hires or working any extra hours, actually working less hours, and why you literally cannot afford to wait, because this is happening right now. So in this video, we'll cover how to implement AI into your business to guarantee a positive ROI. If you don't do this, you will very likely get a negative one. How your competitors are using AI to generate $10,000 leads on autopilot. This is super cool. How to automate operations and make an additional $660,000 per year. So this is specific, and we'll dive deep into that later on. So just a quick little intro on me. My name's Kale. I was now ex-CTO at an AI startup, which is now doing extremely well. And I built a bunch of other stuff that we will touch on after. So if you're like most business owners right now, you're probably overwhelmed with all the AI hype, and I don't blame you. It's literally everywhere. It's impossible to escape, but that also means there's a lot of noise and advice that is actually pretty terrible and will hurt your business instead of help it. After helping dozens of businesses implement AI, I keep hearing the same things. The most common by far is we know we need to do something with AI, but we're not sure what. In this video, we'll go over how to answer this. Should we be doing this AI stuff in-house or bringing somebody in? Again, super common, which we'll touch on. And how are competitors leveraging AI, which we go really in-depth in and give examples of exactly how people are using it. I also hear stories or people claiming stuff like it's completely useless after failed attempts, or people insisting you use AI for literally everything. Both of these things are completely false, so let's go over them now. Common myths. AI will kill your business. This is not true, just as AI is not going to replace your job, or pretty much no job. It won't kill your business, but you will be killed by the competitors that are using AI, right? And this is because when your competitors can do something faster, better, and cheaper than you, they will win. Just like if you went into a job interview and there was somebody there who's faster, better, and cheaper than you, they would win, right? It's the exact same thing in business. So you definitely need to implement AI just properly. Which brings us to, I implemented it and didn't see ROI, so it's useless. You certainly need to implement AI, but strategically, right? AI is like a tool, like a pencil or a pen. That sounds kind of crazy, but technically it's true. Maybe just like the internet, right? These are all just tools that allow you to get better. So I'll teach you how to strategically implement in this video. And then on the other hand, put AI everywhere. Like again, no. Needs to be done strategically, or you will burn money, right? You won't get a positive return. It will just be negative, and that's not what you want. So here's what you do really need to know. You need to implement AI or you won't remain competitive, and it must be done strategically with ROI in mind, right? So a great example of this is there's a super simple AI solution that for just about every law firm that's doing decently well, it would make them $660,000 per year in new revenue, just off something super simple that people overlook and are trying to implement this like stuff that looks magical when the real money is sitting right in front of them. And it would be obvious if everything was come at the angle of ROI. How do I put something in and get the most out for my money? So there are a lot of things that go into getting AI right. First off, what even is it, right? Like I said, it's just like a tool like the internet. So we'll go over this, how your competitors are using it, and how to identify where to add it. And then last thing, how do you actually build these things? So let's jump into this. But first, we're not just jumping on a trend. AI isn't another trend. It is trending, but this is about basic business survival, because AI is so powerful. It can take so much like load off of your team that if you're not doing it, you just can't keep up. And I'll show real examples of this here. But when your competitors can serve more customers faster with better service at lower cost, you can see how you can't compete if you don't also use AI, right? They don't just win a little, they dominate, which means you lose and eventually go out of business. So here's the good news. You don't need to be an expert because I'll explain it all for you. So My name's Kale. Like I said, I was the ex-CTO at a startup. I took that project to a different company, and now in the last 6 months, for this customer service agency, this is like AI that I wrote that's automated 323,000 emails in the last 6 months. So 53% of all the work that's come into this company, right? So it used to be an entire team of humans. Now the AI is obviously doing more than half, and at 26 times cheaper than the humans, right? An instant instead of 8 to 12 hour response times on average, sometimes even longer than that. And then obviously AI is only doing half of it. So the team actually scaled up, and now there's more people. They chose to hire more people, and they're expanding the entire business and producing millions of dollars in enterprise value, which is incredible. And then the other thing is these aren't simple emails like refunds, returns, cancellations, tracking, like things that are quite complex, and you need the AI in there doing very intricate stuff, and also high stakes, right? Because it needs to be getting this stuff right, and it wouldn't be at this volume and have strong numbers like this if it wasn't doing very well. Here's another great example, my accountant. So if we just click this.
Do you get well on the way to that goal of, cutting costs and
absolutely.
removing the...
Absolutely. The OCR part, it easily saved 25% in terms of time. So, and that's huge.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's awesome. And then a little bit later, he doubled down on it.
Serious. So something that used to take hours, like 10 hours, 15 hours, whatever, it takes maybe 1 hour.
That's awesome.
So when I say 30 to 40%, I'm being very conservative.
Yeah. So anyways, there's a bunch more that are under NDA, but let's jump into it. So what is AI? AI is great at repetitive tasks and specifically knowledge-based work stuff. So accounting, for example, where the accountant knows more than you do, and you pay for their time, for their skills to come in and do it. That is knowledge work, right? And anything in the form of image, text, video, audio, this is what AI excels at. It's also completely autonomous, so able to perform a task or action 24/7 and instantly. So let's find exactly where to implement AI. Whatever you are looking to implement, it must meet 3 criteria. So the first one, the task that you're trying to implement AI to do, it's something that your team has to be doing repeatedly, right? So let's say every day you come in and you need to spend 3 hours doing something, or every time you sign a client, the client's process is pretty much the same thing. That is a place that you'd want to look for AI, because it sounds like you're putting a lot of hours towards that, which is just straight money, right? So that's the first criteria. Second one, tasks that follow a specific pattern, so the same thing every time. So let's say you have a lead magnet and somebody submits your lead magnet, and then that data is sent to Slack or some other CRM, and then your team has to go into that CRM, read all the data, and send them an email as fast as possible. That whole process of how the data comes in and it's sent to your CRM, and then the team goes in and does something, that process is the same every time. So you want this as well. And then the final one are tasks that are financially expensive, because if you're going to invest in this solution, you want it to pay off and have a positive ROI over time, right? So there's 2 things that commonly fall into this. One, obviously, if your team's spending a lot of time on it, their time is a lot of money. So that's the most common example. But the other one is tasks that have a high cost if done wrong, or AI can do better. So a great example of this is, let's say leads come in and then your team is just really bad at following up with them and doesn't follow up with them, right? Like in business, a majority of the money is made on the follow-up. And a lot of businesses don't do this because it doesn't really make sense to hire somebody to do it. But it also doesn't really make sense for the people who are already there to do it. So then they just don't do it, and then they're losing, like most companies, millions of dollars, or at least hundreds of thousands by not doing this right. So this is a perfect spot to just put AI in once to do it, and then over time it would pay off massively. Another great example is if you have humans doing something where they could make mistakes and AI would do it better, it makes sense to implement AI. So a great example of this is if you're an accountant and they send in a bunch of PDF documents, like your clients send in PDFs of their bank statements, and your team is in there converting 200 lines of that PDF to an Excel sheet. Well, if they make a mistake on one of those lines, and let's say it's a big number like 50 grand, then that goes to the government and that line was wrong. then now you have to deal with legal implications. Well, your client does, and you do, most likely, and then that client's going to churn, and the interest, depending on how long it took, the government to figure out you made a mistake, like, it's just a disaster, right? But in a case where AI is better than that stuff, and let's say it gets 99.999% accurate, you throw it into the AI does all that work, and then your team just reviews it. So not only do they save all the time that they would have spent actually converting that stuff, but when they go and review it, the details will be so much more obvious because they didn't go through every single line. And that just reduces the risk of this really bad case from happening, right? So this is another great example of somebody use AI, which isn't as commonly talked about. You always want to use it to solve an actual problem in your business. So AI looks like magic, even to people like me who work with this all day long. But you have to be disciplined and only invest in things where you can directly attribute to a positive return, or you will lose money. So this is the fun part, how people are actually using it today. We'll go through how people are actually using AI in practice. So just heads up, this is very general. I'm going to show how these things are just working from a bunch of different companies. For your company, you're going to have to analyze how these things would work. Like if I show something here, it may not be a great fit for your business. So you're going to have to analyze this stuff, or you can book a call with us and we can go through it. At the end, I'll give more details on this, but just a disclaimer. So I broke it down into two sections: AI for traffic and lead generation, and then for operations, because I think they're quite different. Now, for traffic and lead generation, most of this stuff works with just about every business, right? So a super cool example is automated content creation. So all of these videos, see this guy in the video, we'll click on one and watch it, but this is AI generated. He cloned himself with AI and then uses AI to clone his voice and uses AI to do research on the topic and find all of the clips, and then probably uses AI to put them together, and then uses AI or APIs to automatically post them, right? And these are getting millions of views. So let's click on this and just see what he's up to. So let's click the 1.5 million one.
Modern buildings had the beauty of classical architecture. These robots...
So this is AI. You can kind of tell that it's AI, right? But he only puts in a couple clips, so it's quite hard to tell. But he even did a quiz on this because people knew it was AI, and nobody cared as long as the content's good, right? So if we go through and just look at the numbers of this, let's assume the LTV, let's assume he offers AI implementation and his LTV is $7,000, right? If he gets 90,000 views on average from a video, if you average these all up, and 0.25% of them just book a call. That's a super small percentage. It's probably higher than that, but you'd get 225 people booking a call, right? If 30% of those convert, which is a pretty reasonable number, 67 of those convert, right? If you multiply that by the LTV of a client of one video, you're making just under $500,000, right? That is an insane ROI. So to build a system like this that does all this AI stuff, it may cost $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 depending on how well you want it done. But think of the payoff for this if you have a good LTV on your business, right? And even if the LTV is not even as close to as high as that, an investment in doing AI to do all of this stuff would pay off massively for just about any business, right? There's a lot of people doing this. He was one of the first, but now people are catching on. I started doing it with my stuff, and it is incredible, right? So this is a super cool example. All right, let's dive into the next one, programmatic SEO. So SEO, if you don't know, it's just when you search something up on Google, it's like where you rank, right? So if your SEO is really good, then if I search how to integrate Google, then Zapier, this company, will pop up really high. So they have excellent SEO, right? So let's say connect Gmail to Zendesk. Zapier is known for connecting stuff, so boom, they show up right at their top because their SEO is phenomenal, right? Now, people are using, let's use meditation. That's another good meditation. So I think I said here, Calm app or Headspace will probably be in the top ones because they invest the most heavily, and then boom, Headspace is right at the top, right? So AI is revolutionizing this because it can generate content that can rank so easily, right? You just go into ChatGPT or one of these tools and just prompt and say, write me an article, and boom, it's done. Or you can build even more complex systems that can, do it at scale. So I'm gonna show you another example of this. This guy went on Reddit and said, as you know, I've built this dating app called Binder. And he basically talks about this new company that he's built, and he kind of just doesn't give it away totally, but he says he's already at like $1 million ARR, right? And then me, knowing how all this stuff works, I explain exactly how it works, which I'll show you in a second. And he says, thank you, couldn't have pitched it better myself. You're right on the money. So let's look at exactly what this guy's doing. So his app called Binder, where's the home page? Binder. So it's a dating app for LGBTQ people, right? So the main page looks like this. Now what he's doing is he's going and see all of these sites that look the same. Look, page 4, there's so many of them. So he's going, and for every city, or mostly cities, that has a decent amount of users, he's going and copying the exact same page, but just changing the location. So that when people go and start searching stuff, all of these pages, even if they go and get a couple of views a month, like 20, 50, 100 views, if you have thousands of these pages all lined up that are all collecting a couple of views, that stuff adds up. Like, look how many pages of these all add up, right? And all he's done is used AI to change it a little bit, right? And every company is doing this now. Well, sorry, the ones that are super far ahead are doing this, and other ones will catch on soon. But he has been crushing it for this and is helping other businesses do this, and e-com brands are doing this, and accountants and lawyers and kind of everybody in between, right? This is an excellent use case of AI that very few people are talking about, and is still a little bit complex to set up, right? Like, you need somebody to come in and build you out a system to do this. But if you look at the math on it, well, first off, the traffic compounds over time and drives leads on autopilot, right? You set up the system to make these pages, boom, done. The pages are made, and then once it's made, it's there forever. So maybe the first month it gets 5 views, but the next month it gets 20, and then 100, and then maybe 200, and then maybe it levels out at 200 a month. That compounds with all the other pages to like tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of views a month, which is just straight money into your pocket, right? Organic inbound is extremely valuable also when going for an acquisition in comparison to ads, because you've already built that infrastructure. Like, it's just there. People can't replicate what you've done overnight because you've built it up over time, and that's extremely valuable. So even, not just on top of getting leads on autopilot, you've built a much more valuable company if you go to sell it, or whatever ends up, whatever you end up doing with it one day. So the variable cost to generate one of these articles is like 50 cents to $1. I actually think this is really high, but I've made all the numbers very conservative. So let's say each article generates 200 views per month. After the first month, you'd have 6,000 views or after the first full month, you'd have 6,000 views that only costed you $30 to get, right? Then the next month, you still get that 6,000 views, and you already paid the $30 fixed cost, so you don't have to pay anything again. And these views just keep stacking and stacking, right? Now, if people are falling on this page, they would have had to be searching around for like LGBTQ plus dating, right? Because that's how they ended up on this page. So the conversion rate is much higher on this type of stuff, right? So 1% conversion rate with the same LTV. Now it definitely wouldn't be 7,000 on a dating app, but it would still be up there a little bit. You'd still book 60 calls, and then at a 30% conversion rate, you would still get 18 clients, right? And assuming the 7,000, obviously you wouldn't have it for Binder, but this works just as well for B2B, and every B2B company is doing this right now. You'd be adding $126,000 every month at no additional cost, right? Every single month, and it just keeps compounding and compounding and compounding. This is like unbelievably valuable, right? And every company should be doing this. And it's not too complicated to set up. Again, you need to bring somebody in to help you, but this is something to definitely be paying attention to. And competitors are doing this, I promise, because I've helped people do this. Like, people are definitely doing this and it's working. So let's skip down to the next one, AI ads. As mentioned earlier, it's now possible to create relatively realistic clones of yourself using AI. So a common thing people are doing now is using AI to make these ads for their company and then running them on meta ads. So that targets Facebook and Instagram, or TikTok ads, but really wherever they convert well, and putting money behind it to just directly drive more people to the site. Now, this isn't as passive as the other one, but it's much more scalable, because if something's working and you're putting $20 behind it, then you could put $200 behind it or $2,000 behind it and just scale it up and get so many more leads in the door, right? And the average ROAS on, like, return on ad spend is like 2 to 4 for this. So if you put in $1, let's say you hit right in the middle and get $3 back. Not as profitable as, say, for this one, but it's scalable, and that's the difference, right? So there's a bunch of tools. We can click on a couple of these. So here's an example.
Avoid these 2 mistakes if you have an Android phone. Number 1 is getting too many useless emails. Number 2 is not being protected.
Doesn't really show.
Ready to level up your photo game? Let this app work its magic.
See, you could tell it's AI, right? Here's another.
This is the smartest gym bag to ever exist. The Conquer backpack.
That one's much better. But anyways, this technology is getting much better very quickly. And here's another example of the SEO stuff. I saw this earlier. Now, this page isn't even very well targeted at law firms, right? None of these videos are about law firms. But you can see they're making all these pages to get the SEO stuff, which is exactly what I just talked about before. So seeing it in practice is huge. Anyways, these ads, this one's also great too. I want to show you. So this social studio thing, you can actually go in and just type the link to your website here, and it will create all this content and schedule it all onto your social media for you. So kind of like the first idea we talked about with the social media, this does that as well. Now, I don't think this content is that good. It will get better over time. But you can also use this company to go in and create ads for your company. So
need help crunching those numbers? Look no further than Stewart Firms. We're not your average bean.
See, you can tell it's AI, but this is pretty good too, right? So anyways, AI ads is another massive spot where you can pump out all these creatives at practically no cost, like $2 a video, maybe $20 a month, and run ads to this stuff and, really blow up your business. So these are the main use cases I see for just generating traffic using AI that are incredibly underrated right now. Not a lot of people are paying attention to, but the ones that are crushing it. And if you're running a business, you should 100% be trying to implement this stuff. And again, if you need help with this stuff, we can help, but we'll touch on that soon. So going down to more automations for the operations of the company. This is a super common one, so let's go through this. So this is my newsletter, an article I wrote. Let's scroll through here. So if you run a business and you send traffic to a lead form, if you don't respond within 5 minutes, conversions drop by 80%. 80%, right? Responding within the first 5 minutes increases conversions by 391% compared to slower response times. After 30 minutes, the lead effectiveness decreases by 21x. That is insane, right? And even if you end up closing those customers, if you responded slow, they churn 15%, like at a 15% higher rate. So you have every incentive to respond within 5 minutes. But I guarantee you, if you run a company, you have to be brutally honest about whether you're doing this or not, because if you're not, you are literally lighting money on fire. You may as well just light it on fire. And when I was reaching out to businesses, I noticed 95% of people don't get this right? Specifically accounting firms, law firms, things like that. None of them got this right. SaaS companies. So I'm telling you this now to say it's things like this where if you focus on ROI, you would see massive returns instead of focusing on the fancy stuff. So where I get the 660,000 from if we just take those numbers and do the math, right? Monthly recurring revenue, let's assume an LTV of $10,000, and we factor in all the math. I'm not gonna walk through it all, but you get down to a grand total of, you would make $660,000 per year on average just using AI to respond to these leads on time within 5 minutes, but you would hope as soon as possible, right? And it's stuff I've implemented for a bunch of clients, and now they come back from the weekend and say, oh, I had 32 or whatever number of clients just handing me money because the AI has responded and essentially closed all these deals or got it to the point where it's time for payment, right? It's just unbelievably valuable. It's saving you your valuable time and your team's time. It's closing more deals. It's fixing your churn rate, all for an AI solution that would only cost you $5,000 to $10,000 to build, or somewhere in that range, depending, right? Like the ROI is just incredible. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I'd show you kind of how to build these things. I'm not going to go into it in depth, but let's say somebody comes into your lead form, right? So somebody comes into your lead form, like a new email is received from Gmail, then you could say pass that to OpenAI. So let's say they said their name was Kale and a software engineer. You could pass that into OpenAI and then pass it back to Gmail to send the email back to that person, right? Make just allows you to connect all these points and do stuff, which I explain more down here. So let's say the lead form came in, Kale, and his issue is a software dispute with a co-founder, right? You would give the AI kind of a template, and then it would generate a response like this. Hey Kale, thank you for reaching out. We have plenty of software developers with co-founder issues that need legal consideration, so we can likely help you. This is great. If you have nothing right now, this would on its own make a massive influence on your business, and you could set something like this up yourself, right? But then there's cases where you get even more complex, where people really stand out, where the competition, like these are where the best guys hang out, which is where you want to be hanging out, where you go above and beyond, right? So this is a build I've done for a lot of people where they come to me and give me their business account, and we actually take all of the email data that they've sent over the last couple of years and keep it private, but train a model, basically teach an AI how to talk exactly like them. So instead of just saying something like this, which is nice, but it doesn't really move the conversation forward, you get something like this, which is, thank you for reaching out regarding your co-founder issue. To determine how we can best assist you, could you please provide some initial details? And all of this information is coming from questions that the team I helped before had asked specific cases like this in the past, right? A brief overview of the issue, the legal structure of your company, whether an agreement exists, all extremely important information, right? If you had an AI that sent this message, then the person again is just going to say, cool, what do you need from me? And then your team's going to have to go do this anyways, right? But you have AI that you've built that is smart enough to handle all of this stuff. You almost have another employee on your team that costs less than $1 to run, responds automatically, closes you more deals. Like, it's extremely valuable. And this is just one case of, AI and operations helping out massively, but there's so many use cases for stuff like this across your business, whether it's leads coming in or your team is spending too much time on something, like I mentioned with the accounting one, or you're a lawyer and you spend too much time writing up documents, or all of these cases. Now, the problem is that it depends on which business you have, right? Which is why in the beginning I went over trying to teach how you can analyze your business and figure out where to implement AI and go on from there. And then whether you decide that you're going to do it yourself or bring somebody in to help, that's a very valuable skill to learn, which is why I gave the 3 things of how you analyze where you should be implementing AI. But in this, obviously, I can't go through every use case because it really just depends on your business. So I can talk about the ones that I already have done. The customer service agency that I automated 53% of, the challenge was their agency wouldn't be able to compete with people if they didn't have AI, because everybody's going to be implementing AI, especially in customer service, because it's the most obvious and it's the most fierce competition. And we've still dominated, right? Now the AI is 26 times cheaper, and more profitable, right? And people who don't have AI cannot compete with that. There's nothing that they can do to compete with just a human team. If they don't implement AI and now do it better than us, they will not be competitive and eventually go out of business. Solution, it can automate 85 to 90% of client emails. People are still a little bit hesitant, like they don't want AI touching refunds, so it's closer to the 50 to 60% range, but that's completely up to them. So the result, 26 times cheaper, instant responses, which means happier clients because they had humans before taking 8 hours longer, right? New revenue stream for the agency, over $50,000 per month, which is incredible. And a higher valuation now because it's not just a human team. Now you're partly a software company. And the more you keep pushing towards that, the more you become a software company and the more enterprise value you've created. We're talking about millions, like tens of millions of dollars here. It's incredible, right? Another example, accounting firms, slow lead response time. So you're losing valuable clients to your competitors, right? And also speeding up operations to charge competitive pricing because, at least in Canada, because of kind of how living expenses and all of this stuff are going, people can't afford as much. So being competitive on pricing is extremely important. And the people implementing AI can do this, as you saw with my accountant before. He is probably dominating because he can do stuff like this now, where everybody else can. So the solution, multiple systems, but what resulted was instant responses to those leads that closes more clients at higher rates and improved operational efficiency. He said 40%, which was mentioned as extremely conservative. So now, how can we actually help you? First off, I hope that was extremely valuable. That was my goal. But if you want more help and personalized help where we actually come in and can do this for you, it's kind of broken down into two things. So number one, AI consulting, which is for business owners who know they need AI but want expert guidance, right? So I broke down how you can go about doing this on your own. But if you want us in there talking to you, talking to your team, figuring out, so a one-on-one deep dive session where we map out your entire company and see how the things look. Even just having that is extremely valuable later on. Weekly optimization calls where we meet with you or just your team and go through, again, everything, because businesses are changing all of the time, right? Like you have a bunch of systems right now, but in a month, those are going to change based on whatever is happening, or new employees come in, or all of this stuff. So we can stick with you and, basically be just the technical lead inside of your company if that's something that you need, with the goal of keeping you extremely competitive and as profitable as possible. Direct access to me by my phone number. We'll also add you to our Slack so you can access our team, and then continuous optimization. Probably not implementation because that's something different, but just optimization of the systems that are already in the business. And then this is a one-time thing if you want to go through it, or a month thing, or on a monthly basis. It really just depends on the business. We've helped businesses with all three. It really just depends on what you need. And then custom AI development. So let's say in consulting you figure out, there's a build that we definitely need, or you see this and you already know exactly what you need because you went through the process at the beginning and you've talked to the team and outlined your business and you've already figured this stuff out. Then what this would look like is an initial strategy call where we just sit down and see if it's a good fit. Then there's paid exploration with a prototype. So we kind of go into your business, make sure this is like with a prototype, we show you a very base version, but say this is what the final product will look like. Obviously, this is just a prototype, but when it's done, here's what it'll look like. So you don't have to imagine this stuff, right? Because sometimes I could say something and expectations, they can be everywhere. So we found doing a little paid exploration to make sure it will fit exactly what you want. So there's no surprises and you get that ROI you're looking for. That's why this is the second step. And then full development and implementation, we go through and do the entire thing. And then optional maintenance where we just manage everything so you don't have to touch anything technical. And you can just focus on what you're best at, which is running your business, right? Because you probably don't want to be in all this AI stuff. We only work with businesses that are already successful and ready to scale. And why we do this? Because our solutions typically deliver 3 to 10 times ROI, sometimes significantly more than that, but only for businesses that are like already have systems and are already generating revenue, right? Because even in the traffic examples with AI, if you don't have a product that people want, then, well, if you're driving traffic to it, then if you don't have a good business, it's not going to change that, right? So we only work with business that already have things figured out. How much this stuff costs, investment ranges. For consulting, it's usually 3 to 5 figures, development 4 to 6. This varies, but this is just to set expectations, right? If you're running a good business, then implementing this stuff, as you saw before, makes a massive impact. So this is very reasonable, but again, just to set expectations that if this is out of your budget, it's probably not a good fit for us. Due to high demand and our commitment to results, we carefully select who we work with for the same reason. If you're serious about staying ahead of your competition with AI, there will be a link or a button below where you can click it, and there's a questionnaire. So you can type in all the information just to make sure that it's a good fit. And then you can book a one-on-one strategy session with me where we can sit down and just talk things out and make sure everything's a good fit, and then we can go from there. So thank you for watching. I hope you got some value from this, and I hope to see you inside. All right, peace.